Hey guys, what is up, and welcome back to another episode of Apologists, Ace Attorney. In the last episode, we examined the Drew Studio a little bit more, found out what the little letter in the bottom was saying, as well as kind of looked through the paintings and found out that this guy seemed to be stalking us, I guess, but like he didn't paint it. He had like the sketches of whatever happened in our three cases, Turnabout, Trump, Corner, and Serenade, so far. So that is really, really strange. And we also were able to talk to one of the witnesses for today, which is Spark Brushel. So, yeah, we got a lot of things going on. And this case is already starting to kind of heat up a little bit. So, yeah, let's get going. October 8th, 9:48 a.m., District Court, Defendant Lobby, number 6. Good morning.
So, you're Vera, right? I'm Trissy. Trissy Wright. That's right with a W. But not right, right? We're on your side. You can tell us anything, please. Good morning.
She speaks.
Not bad, not bad. But I think you'd do better with a little smile, you know? You're so pretty. You need to sell yourself, you know?
Jersey, let's take it easy for starters.
Thank you for taking my case.
Okay, well, that's a start, I guess. There she goes with the nail polish again.
That's great, really. It's so cultured. Wanna try? Ooh, really?
Girls. The victim, Drew Misham, was a forger, and a stolen painting was found in the studio. A life of crime, really, and maybe one that led to his death. October 8th, 10 a.m., District Court, Courtroom number 3. Well, we will now, begin the trial of Vera Misham.
Is the judge okay? His voice is all raspy and he's looking around all nervous like.
The repercussions of today's trial will most likely be felt for a long time, and may indeed alter our legal system forever. Today is a test of the juris system, and the first step towards a new order in our courts.
Daddy's secret mission!
The jurors will function like a jury. Wow, you don't say. It is hoped that their inclusion will help the courts to better reflect the people's will. Why aren't there why aren't there any jurists in the courtroom? 3 closed-circuit cameras watch this courtroom at all times. The jurists have access to everything that transpires. Jurists, judge well and judge cool. Now see here, Prosecutor Gavin. I was going to say that. My apologies, Herr Judge. Jurists, today, judge today's trial coolly, if you would be so kind. The jurists are unbound by the letter of law. They don't affect the trial with evidence, but by their feelings. And we're about to find out just what effect they're going to have. Very well. Prosecutor Gavin, the details of the case, if you would. The victim is the painter Drew Misham. He was killed in his own studio. His coffee was poisoned. By whom, you ask? By none other than the defendant, Vera Misham. There wasn't any poison in the coffee. Achtung! Someone has been doing their homework. Indeed, poison was not present in the coffee, but on the mug itself. The mug? Oh, residue was found on the rim, I see. The autopsy report describes the manner of our victim's death. The court accepts this as evidence. According to this report, the victim's death was caused by atraquinine poisoning, a chemical compound that does not occur naturally. Lethal dosage is a mere 0.002 milligrams. A touch of atraquinine in the body is the touch of the Reaper's scythe. Very well. Prosecutor Gavin, you may present your witness. I have for you today a simple man for a simple case. A man who witnessed the murder in its entirety. That journalist, no doubt. The witness will state his name and occupation.
Ah, right! Well, for starters, my name's Spark Brushel. My job is a lone observer of the world.
In other words, a freelance journalist, right?
Ahem. If you don't mind, I'd like to state something here for the record.
Yes, Mr. Brushel?
I dislike conclusions, specifically the jumping to aspect of conclusions. Preconceptions make parked sandbox of endless desert waste. End quote.
But you are a journalist. You said so yourself yesterday.
Well, that's true, yes. But you must understand, I stand before you today a man with a dream. I'm offering you my testimony in exchange for exclusive rights to the story. Scoop turns that Mr. Brushel into that Mr. Brushel. End quote.
Let's hear your testimony then, shall we? A simple case, eh, Gavin? For me, the jury is still out.
I visited the studio around the 9 o'clock that night to do the interview. The first outsider to enter the atelier. Journalistic history made, end quote. His daughter bought us coffee right after we started. And you know what happened next? Star falls, end quote. No one entered the room besides her the whole time. Will the lawnmower shut up? Please. No. What are you saying, Judge?
Need I remind you the cameras are rolling today? I felt the need to be a bit dramatic. You didn't do it, did you?
Me doing a thing like that? Come on, that's like newsmaker making the news, end quote. Or even contemporary witch hunt, end quote. I know, wild accusations rock courtroom, end quote.
Rock indeed.
Prosecutor Gavin sure looks like he's having fun.
I'm so happy for him. Well, very well, Mr. Justice. Your cross-examination, please. The lawnmower will shut up! I visited the studio around 9 o'clock that night to do the interview. First outsider to enter the atelier. Whatever, who cares? His John brought us coffee right after we started. Would you mind being a little more specific?
Oh, wait, let me tell you, I enjoy a cuppa. In fact, it all began when I was in the 3rd grade. No, wait, 4th grade.
That's not what I meant! I believe I know what Herr Forehead is driving at. This coffee the victim was served. Did anyone other than the defendant touch it?
Right, that.
That's what I was going to say, really.
Well, now, if you got a question to ask, you best straight up ask it. That's what I tell all the new recruits, several times if necessary. Right for a grade schooler. That's my motto. Which isn't easy to say, I can...
Who touched the coffee?
Dunno. I was in the back looking at the studio's equipment when she served it.
And what happened next?
I was in the back looking at the studio's equipment when she served it, and then I also witnessed the whole murder right in front of my eyes.
Wow. What's this about a star falling?
Star falls, huh? It's like an old telegram. Send money, over. Zowie! You don't know? That's like a journalism code word. An important personage passes away. A star falls. Get it? But there's no gravity in space, is there? I wouldn't think stars could fall, really.
Does this matter?
Oh boy! This is good stuff, good stuff! How about star breaks? Lacks punch. I know, star dies! Lacks imagination. Of course, you could go with Drew dies, straight to the point. I like it.
I think we need to hear about something a little more substantial. You say Mr. Misham had the coffee too, but did you actually see him drink the coffee?
Course! He who sees it wins, but he who says it wins bigger. End quote. I live in a man sees dog eat dog and writes about it world. Yet. Guess I can't say I saw him drink it, really. He had one so-called sip, if that. Man puts lips to mug, drinks. End quote. That poison is quite virulent, I hear. My stomach did a so-called somersault, since I gulped down that coffee without so much as a second glance at it. Wait, maybe something's there. Some kind of so-called trick. Anyone want to venture for a guess? For the record?
Does this guy have a pause button? Does this guy have a shut up button? The victim drank his coffee, then immediately fell over?
Oh, yes. You can go to the press with that one.
Your Honor, this is a vital piece of information. Please add it to the testimony. Very well. The witness will add this to his testimony.
Vital, right?
You know what I have a problem with? A particular property of the poison used, atropine. Oh, Prosecutor Gavin was quite clear about the poison. A lethal dosage of 0.002 milligrams paralyzes the central nervous system. If you drank that, even you, Mr. Joseph, would be reduced to a quivering pile. Why are you using me as an example? Unfortunately, we weren't told everything. There was a vital omission in Prosecutor Gavin's information. An omission? Atropine is as virulent as he says, but death doesn't come upon ingestion, not immediately. That's because atropine is slow acting. Slow acting? What? According to one forensic scientist. It's one of the most virulent poisons, but is absorbed into the body astonishingly slowly. It takes at least 15 minutes from the time of ingestion for adverse effects to show. If we suppose that the moment that Mr. Misham slipped the coffee was when he sealed his fate, then he would have still had time left to enjoy his last cup of joe. Order! What's the meaning of this? If what the defense says is correct, why that contradicts the entire testimony we've just heard. Well, Mr. Brushel, anything to say? On the record? Slow acting. S-L-O-W-A-C-T.
It was virulent, all right. Even then, it had already begun dumping its claws into the journalist.
He's working on his scoop. It's Brushel, yeah? Herr Brushel, let's take a trip back down memory lane.
Huh?
Did the victim really die the instant he took a sip? Think it over. This is vital.
And you know what I think? I think that it was a not so subliminal suggestion. End quote.
I admit it does cause a problem if he died when you say he died. I would be forced to say oh no, whatever, I forgot how to say that, to my simple case. And you would be forced to say farewell to your article.
Come again?
You can't write the story based on conjecture, can you? And as the case drags on, other reporters will pick up the scent. And you'll be forced to kiss your exclusive scoop goodbye.
Scoop!
Ew!
Look, just wait a second. Just 1 second.
We're waiting. Out with it.
I think I just recalled a so-called important detail. A revival of recollection, end quote. A story survival, end quote.
Eternally, utterly confused, end quote.
Actually, I did notice something when I visited the studio. I'd heard a poison that takes its sweet time, see?
But not what I've been saying for the past few minutes, apparently.
Mr. Brushel, are you saying you noticed something that explains what happened? You bet I am! The antidote for a poisonous contradiction, end quote, you might say.
Or, I still have no idea what you're talking about, end quote, I might say.
I figured that out, but only after an in-depth interview. See, thanks to my journalism skills, I know who poisoned that coffee.
Order! As far as I can tell, the witness is standing by his testimony. That Mr. Misham died the instant after he drank.
Of course I'm standing by my testimony, and my dream of exclusive rights to this story.
I suppose it was too much to hope for. What was? Of course he wouldn't choose a simple case, not him.
Him?
Phoenix Wright, who else? Achtung, Herr Brushel. Report for us if you would. What is it that you noticed?
This court is a critical trial of the juris system. I'm afraid no room for doubt is permissible. You will testify to the court about what you noticed. When I arrived at the studio, Mr. Misham was at his desk. He seemed to be writing a letter, but he quickly sealed the envelope. I thought nothing of it at the time, of course. Now that I think about it, what if he was writing a suicide note? What? A suicide note? Yes, he had this look on his face. Man's face inscrutable as a quadratic equation, end quote.
Suicide? Poor Mr. Misham. But that means Vera's innocent. Would someone commit suicide in the middle of an interview? Oh.
Very well. You may begin your cross-examination.
So he put the letter away when he saw you?
Early reporter gets worm, end quote. That's my secret.
I'm not sure I follow.
It's the night of the interview. I arrive 15 minutes ahead of schedule. The handle turns, the door opens, and I barge in.
Are you sure that's okay to do? I mean, isn't that unlawful entry, really?
Mr. Misham sure seemed to think so. You should have seen him. He crammed his letter into that yellow envelope as fast as he could. I know a secret when I spot one, and that was the one. It does seem significant. Well, Mr. Justice,
I wonder. It does have the ring of something important. The defense finds this testimony vital, Your Honor.
Very well. Please add it to the testimony then. Hey, why not? My account comes free of charge.
The yellow envelope, I heard it was left at the crime scene.
I'm gonna find it.
Alright. As it just so happens, there was a single letter in a desk drawer at the scene.
In a red envelope. What?
Prosecutor Gavin.
Yes?
Was a yellow envelope found at the scene of the crime?
Unfortunately, no. But, Herr Forther, it's easy to mistake the color of an envelope.
I guess. But not this envelope. You see, it was postmarked already, 7 years ago.
Well, Mr. Brushel, I can explain that. Drew, right, he wanted to get that letter in an envelope, pronto. Get it out of sight of my beady eyes, right? So he grabbed the nearest envelope and crammed away.
And what about the whole red and yellow envelope contradiction, chump?
Well, Mr. Justice, have you anything to say to the witness's claim?
That night, the victim put a letter he had been writing in a red envelope?
That's impossible. Ah, I like your expression, so full of confidence.
It's simple, really. As it just so happens, the defense team investigated the contents of the envelope, with, the assistance of a forensic scientist.
What?
Note that this letter is addressed to Drew Misham.
Oh!
Why would he address a letter to himself?
Let alone send a suicide note to himself. But I've been scooped! Order, order, order! Mr. Brushel, can you explain this to the court? Oh, my! How could I have forgotten? I suppose this happens to the best of us. Reporter gets so, forgets lots. End quote. I'm still waiting for an explanation, Mr. Brushel. Well, that's the thing, see. After he put this letter in an envelope, Mr. Misham sat there searching his dress drawer for something.
His desk drawer?
Yes, a stamp. A so-called postage stamp. End quote. A stamp? Whatever for? Well, to mail his letter. What else? And then, why yes, I think I saw him put it in his letter box. Yes, it was a yellow envelope, and he put it in that box. Well, apparently this yellow letter has nothing to do with this case. Oh, how I wish it did. Just think if that were a suicide note. What a story! Star writes suicide note in front of a reporter. False. End quote. As I was saying, that this has nothing to do with this case. That said...
Yes, Your Honor? It makes me wonder about the contents of that red envelope. $100,000 is quite a good deal of money. So this was from 7 years ago, yeah?
So, am I finished? Here. Am I finished here? I was thinking of, going home and start writing.
What? I hate to state what should be pretty obvious to anyone, but when you catch the scent of a story, you make that, rather unique face.
Come on! Attorney has active imagination, little else, end quote.
Even I noticed something, and my eyes on what they used to be. I'm starting to understand what all this perceiving stuff is about. Judge has active imagination, end quote. Please continue with your testimony. Tell us about the scent of a story.
Hey, I'm the one asking the questions here, usually. Actually, it took a bit of work to get a thumbs up on the interview. Reporter leverages story, gets his interview, end quote. The story concerned a certain case from 7 years ago. That red envelope probably had something to do with it. Say what you will, but Drew's talent was without compare.
So you threatened to go to the press with this story. That's how you got your interview? Blackmail?
Well, yes. No. I wasn't exactly black. I'm not.
Something wrong, Mr. Brushel?
Look. This is my story, my tidbit. Journalist info is livelihood. End quote.
I see.
Well, you have me chatting away in here. What's going on out there? What if some Wally Wordsworth or Scally Scooper gets wind of my story? They could be going to press while I'm going to waste.
The court feels your pain, Mr. Brushel. Mr. Justice, let's pick up the pace. A certain case 7 years ago. Wait, 7 years ago? Oh, okay, we have a perceive. Let's see. Oh. Sweat much, Mr. Brushel?
Yeah, well, a man can't help his glance,
It's more than that. When Mr. Misham's talent was mentioned, You suddenly began to sweat buckets. Buckets, not bullets. You're hiding something about his talent.
What? Ridiculous!
Evidence time. Let's show where Mr. Misham's true talent lay. It just so happens that I have evidence showing the talent he mentioned in that letter. This painting was found in Mr. Misham's studio. There are two problems with this painting. The first is it wasn't painted by Mr. Misham. The second is that there was another painting in the studio which looked exactly like this one, except it was only half done. Then we have a letter discussing a payment of $100,000, which suggests a certain business operation. The business of making forgeries.
No!
That is all, Your Honor.
Now, everyone, please, everyone, can we keep this private, please? This is my story, my scoop. Forgery. That's a serious crime.
Drew Misham is known as an artist these days, but there were rumors he dabbled in another kind of art until a few years back.
Another art meaning forgery?
Drew Misham was talented, all right. Talented at making precise, detailed fakes. A fact that certain criminal elements were quick to discover. Criminal elements? But you can't seriously be talking about... Exactly. I'm talking about forging evidence. The rumor started circulating 7 years ago.
So 7 years ago? So, are we to understand that this letter, this payment of $100,000 was for?
Exactly. Forged evidence nets tiny profit, end quote.
Order, order, order! Why, it's like our victim was living a double life!
Aha, this is my chance. So the victim had ties to the criminal world, right? He could have had plenty of enemies we know nothing about. This is my first time hearing of this criminal world. We certainly found no criminal connections when we conducted our investigation. But how do you explain all this money? You have to admit there's a possibility of some illegal activity here. But there is no proof tying this letter to our case. Our case was and remains simple from the beginning. Only the defendant could have poisoned the mug that night. And you, of course.
Hey! The only thing I poison is my pen when I'm writing interviews. Mr. Brushel, your testimony to this point has been quite unreliable. It doesn't speak well of your reporting acumen. What are you talking about? My journalism is rock solid. Journalism so solid you could stand an elephant on it. End quote. In any case, let's hear a summarized recap of your testimony. If we can ascertain the situation in that studio from the recap, the trial is over.
Apollo, what's he talking about? The cross-examination showed Mr. Brushel didn't have a reason or means to poison him. As long as there's no other suspects, then the killer had to be Vera, that's what. This next testimony is our last chance.
Mr. Brushel, your testimony, please.
The only other person in the studio that night was the defendant. It was Vera who poured the coffee. She's admitted as much herself. The only thing that touched Drew's lips during the interview was that mug, and nothing left in that studio after he died. Nothing. Clearly, the only one who could have poisoned him was his daughter. A nice testimony. Clear, succinct, and without room for doubt.
Aw, shucks. You really think so? I believe this clarifies the situation that night. Very well, Mr. Justice. You may begin your final cross-examination.
Right. I still have one trump card left to play, and I won't let this trial end until I use it. Alright, that is where we're going to stop for today. Roll the end card.
Objection! You haven't hit like and subscribe yet! Hold it! forgot to ring the bell to get notified whenever I upload. Take that! Click here to watch more of my videos. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye-bye!